Welcome back to another episode of the Packs What She Said podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Maggie Loney, joined as always by Perry Goldstein, recapping the unfortunate week 2 loss. Packers fall 24-25 to the Atlanta Falcons in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Really, really winnable game, Perry, and I think that's why these are always the most frustrating. Not that a blowout loss would have been any better, but when it's tangible and in your hands and you have a 12-point lead and you can feel it and then it slips away, that gets a little frustrating. But that's what we're here to talk about, right? Is what went wrong, what went right, and how concerned Packers fans should be sitting at 1-1 and still atop the NFC North after 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think the rest of the division did them a lot of favors by losing. So thanks.
Shout out.
It would have been nice to be actually atop by a game. But, you got to take your wins, if you will, or you can get them. I think we talked about this pre-show, and it's how I feel, and it's how I still feel even after processing this game, 24 plus hours later, is like, I think the fact that this was winnable makes it equally as frustrating, but also equally as encouraging, because ball bounces one way, you get a field goal on one of the drive, things that are very tangible for that to happen in the future. And the Packers come away with a win. They were leading virtually the entire game. The defense got gashed on the ground. What else is new? And they gave up a 12-point lead. And unfortunately, the offense couldn't put a drive together to milk the clock or even put up 3 at minimum points. And that's just going to be growing pains from this team, unfortunately. And you hope that this isn't happening in week 10 or week 12. But it was week 2 and they lost, by a very close margin right at the end of the game. So I think a lot to learn from, and we'll dive into more specifics, but I'm not heartbroken by this. I think it shows we saw who this team is and that they can win these games. And I don't know. It would have been nice to be 2-0 because they're going into a stretch of playing 3 games in 12 days, which we can probably get into. But I don't feel horrible about this loss.
Yeah, and I think the hard part here too is it certainly wasn't to the extent, right, of going into the Cardinals a couple of years ago with your 5th, 6th, and 7th wide receivers or anything like that. But Jordan Love was undermanned, right? He didn't have Christian Watson. He didn't have his starting left tackle who played lights out in week 1. Elton Jenkins goes down early. He didn't have Aaron Jones. I thought, given the players that he had at his disposal and him still going into his 3rd career NFL start, Zach Cruz tweeted it earlier. He still leads the league in passer rating through 2 weeks, which is just, if you had told Packers fans, there's going to be some bumps and bruises, but you're going to start the season 1-1 and Jordan Love is going to look really good, they would have taken that. Anyone would have taken that. And I think, I'm curious your thoughts on this. I don't think it was just the Aaron Rodgers effect or the Packers of old. When the Packers got the ball back for their final drive, I had confidence that Jordan Love could get it done. I thought they could get into field goal range. It wasn't oh shoot, here we go kind of moment. There was some confidence there and some optimism because we'd seen him put together drives. And we'll talk about favorite plays later. But I thought there was a lot to really like on offense, but some head scratchers as well that I'm sure we'll get into.
Of course. Yeah. I think the key takeaway here is the Packers didn't lose this game because of Jordan Love. That's yes. my key takeaway from this game is, did he have an amazing lights out game? No, he was 14 for 25, 150 something yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
And one of them was a little shovel, but
a little shovel, but whatever, we'll take it.
Right.
A very kind of nondescript, above-ish average day. They put up 24 points. That should be enough to win a game. Right. And the surrounding pieces of this team need to do more because he's not going to be superhero and he shouldn't yet have to put the team on his back in a way to drive down the field and score. Later down the road, I think that's something that should be expected of him if he is to be a franchise quarterback. That is something that all of the great top 10 quarterbacks can do in this league. But I don't think it's fair to have expected that of him. But you're right. At the end, I was 54 seconds? They they could put
They got a
some
timeout.
magic together. I didn't think so, but if it had happened, that would have been like above and beyond. So
Right.
I think the one thing, my takeaway, I guess, like I said, is like Jordan Love did not lose this game for this team. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. Did he make, the best, most accurate throws in the world? Oftentimes, no. Did he have some really beautiful throws in this game? Hell yeah. I mean, the last throw to Samori Toure was gorgeous, on the money. Unfortunately, Toure couldn't haul it in. I thought his non-touchdown in the back of the end zone to Wicks was stunning. You couldn't put that any better. AJ Terrell just made an amazing play on the ball. And you know what? That happens. Like, the other guys get paid too. So we'll get into stock up and stock down, but I think Aaron Jones plays in this game, Packers win. That's like just an easy statement, I think, to make. But yeah, you lose the left side of your line. You cannot get the run game going at all, so you can't get into your play action. Everyone did I think on offense, they're 111th for the most part. I ragged on AJ Dillon on Pack-A-Day. If listeners watched that, I feel a little bit bad about that today, because I think the run blocking was also pretty abysmal for him. So there's only so much that he can do. So yeah, I mean, not perfect, plenty to work on, but it's week 2. Good. Go and work on it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about when I said like pre-show that I couldn't wait to dive in, because the more you sit back and the more you look and the more you study and kind of watch what happens, like AJ Dillon didn't have a perfect game. And we said last week on the show, like, you cannot expect AJ Dillon to run the same offense that Aaron Jones can. They're different styles of back. The same offensive plays are not going to work for both of them. That said, the Packers have set up both sides of the ball in a very specific way. They have always valued pass blockers over run blockers. Their offensive line can pass pro their asses off for the entirety of the day, right? Like, Jordan Love is barely getting touched. When it is time to be people movers, their offensive line cannot do that as well. I don't think anybody had like an average grade from PFF. And again, PFF, not the standard, just a metric. But the point stands, right? Like, these are guys that can pass block. Matt LaFleur's offense, I don't think, is designed to be a run blocking offense, which is why he has so much of that like outside zone, a lot of like shifty movement with his running backs. So when you have a running back like AJ Dillon, who's designed to follow his lead blockers, and nobody's lead blocking, he's not going to be successful, and that's not entirely his fault.
Right, especially when you lose probably 2 of your best lead blockers.
Right.
I was surprised that LaFleur didn't use more heavy personnel in this. Like, I was surprised we didn't see Josiah DeGuara in there as lead blocker with AJ Dillon, or, even like a Tucker Kraft, or like any of the other Ben Sims who they used in week 1. Like, that was, now that you bring that up, I'm realizing a little bit of a surprise, because you're right. You cannot run the same run offense with an AJ Dillon as you can with an Aaron Jones. And I stop with the toss plays. I mean, the toss play, like, again, if someone out there is like a scheme expert and wants to explain to me the point of the toss play, does it set up something in the future? Does it test the defense in a way to open up something else? Potentially, maybe, but they're not working. And it didn't lead to anything. That I could see. So the toss plays work with maybe an Emmanuel Wilson or an Aaron Jones or Jaden Reed, but it's not going to work with AJ Dillon. You're not catering to his skill set. And I feel like he's getting a lot of heat, from myself included. Sorry, AJ, but there are some moments where his skill set should have created some momentum. Right. And I think specifically on, short yardage conversions. And you should not have to be challenging, the ruling on the field for a yard. It should not be 3rd and 1 and you're getting tripped up on yourself, on the lineman, whatever it is. Like, you are 250 pounds, just push. And he did. There were a handful of runs where he moved that pile, and you're like, that's AJ Dillon I know and love. But not in key moments. And unfortunately, there was a 3rd and 1. They desperately need to convert on 3rd down to keep time of possession, not give the Falcons back the ball, not have to put the defense back out there after getting gashed by Bijan Robinson. And they couldn't do it. And that's why they lost the game.
And I think it's frustrating too, because obviously you can't expect Matt LaFleur to be like, well, it's not working, let's abandon the run. Like, that's not productive for your offense either, because then you become one-dimensional. But there were so many moments throughout the game where it was like, all right, first down, and we're going to rush for 1 yard. And then it's 2nd and 9, and we're already like behind the sticks
Yeah.
and we're losing momentum. And for a young offense that, like, Jordan Love needs rhythm and he needs consistency and he needs to get the ball out quickly. And it just felt like so much of this day was him playing behind the sticks. Like, at one point, I think in his presser today, he said something about the team needing juice. And that's when Jordan scrambled for that 24-yarder and like got up, talking his talk. And he can make some of those moments happen. But it's like you said, he shouldn't necessarily have to be a superhero at this point. And we like it. We want to see those glimpses of him doing that. But it just felt like, for as creative as we expected the LaFleur offense to be, and there were moments of it, I thought he called a beautiful first half. But
Yes.
sometimes it's like you wonder if he's calling for his old quarterback and he's forgetting, like, hey, we need to have, a different style for this one going into this until he gets comfortable.
I think also credit to the Falcons. They came back out in the second half with their own really great defensive plan. I thought they got a lot more pressure on Love than in the first half. He had more guys in his face. So, again, the other team, game plans for this as well. But I wish that LaFleur had, and he said he owned up to it in his presser, so good on him. But I kind of wish he had trusted Love a little bit more with the ball in his hands, especially in the crucial moments. Except, the last drive, obviously 4 passes, 4 incompletions. But before that, they did 3 runs, and I understand the choices for sure on why you ran the ball in that instance. You're up, you're winning, and you want to keep as much time. You want to keep the Falcons offense off the field for as long as possible, keep the ball for as long as you can in your hands. But at the same time, like, your quarterback is completing those. There was that awesome play to Luke Musgrave where he leaked out to the right side, easy first down. Things like that. It doesn't have to be him slinging it down the field. It can be kind of quick, short yardage passes. And he just didn't give the ball to Jordan. And again, like, fair, you know what I mean? Like, this is, we're still trying to determine who can do what, right? Like what each of these players' limits are, I guess, is what I'm saying. We're evaluating that. And so far, I think a lot of the offensive players have shown, like, above and beyond what I was personally expecting out of them, like a lot less bumps maybe than I was expecting. But I hope that in the future, LaFleur will say, you know what, maybe we're going to put the ball in our QB's hands this time.
And I think there's something to be said about exploiting your matchups too. And I thought that's what the Falcons were so good at in the second half on offense. Like, there was that crucial 3rd down conversion, and Twitter was just going nuts because Devondre Campbell was playing off man on Bijan, having to cover him on like a quick out. Like, that's not going to happen, right? Or a quick slant. Like, it's just a mismatch from the beginning. And some of those things, like, Matt LaFleur's got burners now. Like, he's got the speed on offense to create some of those mismatches for his own offense. So you want to see him get comfortable and create some of those opportunities too. And again, Aaron Jones wasn't playing. We saw the mismatch last week against TJ Edwards. That's what, good coaches do. And I think Matt LaFleur is an exceptional coach. I just think that there are opportunities, which, again, we said growing pains, young offense. I think we'll see more of that as the game progresses. But not to just completely go on a tangent here, but like opening the game with a flea flicker, I thought that was just so fun. I was like, all right, let's go, Matt LaFleur.
Loved that. Yeah, I mean, Matt LaFleur has a lot, and he's put a lot on tape, even in this game, even in this loss. I do want to pivot a little bit to some positives, because I think the offense also did some good things, right? I would love to see them target Luke Musgrave more, just scheme it up for him, especially in a game where you're down 2 of your best weapons. Like, who, you just said it, scheme up some mismatches. Who is your mismatch on this offense? Like, it is Luke Musgrave.
It's the 4.3 speed tight end. Like, it's that guy.
6'6". Like, yeah. So I think they're just also getting comfortable. And like I said, like, setting up what each is like responsible and able to handle. But this was the Jaden Reed game. Great.
Yes.
You had Romeo Doubs, who I think did a nice job. Unfortunately for my fantasy team, he did not get too many targets, but he did a really nice job of taking away virtually for the whole game AJ Terrell, right? They kind of had Terrell shadowing Doubs. Makes sense. That's your wide receiver 1. good job. Okay, you're taking away one of they got through that. They got to kind of pick on. I think it was Trey Flowers, and great. Then you get Jaden Reed involved. Then you get Dontavian Wicks involved. 7 offensive players caught passes from Jordan Love, spread the ball around. Love that, because then the defense doesn't know, who he's going to. So they did some really nice things. I love the speed. I think if Aaron Jones is ever out again, which I hope he's not, I hope he plays the entire rest of the season, but would love to see more Jaden Reed in the backfield. Some of the stuff that Cobb used to do, right, when he was pre this last instance, when he was younger. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Luckily, a lot of season left for the offense to figure out what works.
Yeah, I don't want to, turn this into a downer, but there are, of course, some concerns we have to talk about here. David Bakhtiari, whatever you make of him not playing.
You don't want to talk about something positive on offense that you liked?
I do, but I want to get these out of the way, right? Elton Jenkins, MCL sprain in his knee, said he doesn't think it'll be season ending, but would also indicate that he likely will be out for an amount of time. And then, of course, David Bakhtiari with swelling in his knee, which Matt LaFleur said, guys, it's been 2 years, right? This, I think this is what it is for him at this point. And if you want to try and read between the tea leaves, be my guest. If you want to have a turf conversation, be my guest. But
I don't.
No, exactly. Same. But so 2 of your best players on the offensive line likely not able to play for. Well, we don't know about Bakhtiari. Elton Jenkins at least out for a chunk of time, which isn't fun when you've got guys like Cam Jordan coming to Green Bay. But we're not going to talk about that on this episode. So just wanted to get the injury things out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, look, your offensive line all of a sudden goes from a strength to not a strength. That sucks. Elton Jenkins, what are you going to do? It's football. Injuries
happen to anyone. Yeah,
it happens. Yeah. Don't love hearing that it would possibly be season ending, because that's not great. I did not think it was that serious. I was thinking he'd be out a month, and 4 games plus they have an early bye. Early bye is really nice. Okay. I think they can make do. Again, this is why you keep Yash. This is why you keep, sorry guys, Royce Newman. There's a reason why these guys stick to rosters, because in a flash, all of a sudden, 2 of your best offensive linemen are not in the game. The David Bakhtiari stuff, I don't know how much we can rehash. I mean,
I think it is what it is. It's
I think he suffered a gruesome, horrible injury. And for some guys, you can bounce back from ACL tears. For some guys, you can never bounce back from injuries like this. He didn't just tear his ACL. I think it was also his MCL. He had full reconstructive surgery. He's had, I don't even know how many surgery. He also plays a position that is not very favorable to your knee joints. So, he's a big dude trying to recover from a bad injury, and I think they're just doing their best. I thought there is no world where David Bakhtiari sat out of this game voluntarily, just point blank. Obviously, he had some kind of medical, and Matt LaFleur cleared that up today. I don't know what you do. Do you put Yash in at left tackle? Do you put Rasheed Walker in at left tackle? I also hated the rotation. Can we talk about that for a second? I don't like the rotation. Keep it consistent. If you want to bring Rasheed Walker in as your 6th tackle, great, but keep one guy at left tackle at all times. I don't love that process, but they have options. Now this week in practice, they're just going to have to workshop who their best 5 is.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's where the conversation gets really tricky, is because Rasheed Walker had a really nice camp, but then you put him in game action and he struggled. So they brought in Yash, and Rasheed became the 6th man. Do you consider moving a Zach Tom, who won the starting right tackle spot? He's locked that down. Would you consider shifting him? There's a lot of pieces. Matt LaFleur always says, we're going to play our best 5. So it'll be interesting to see, who they deem the best 5. But I think regardless of who your best 5 are, the 6th lineman kind of becomes a necessity, or at least getting your better blockers. Josiah DeGuara is going to probably be hanging out on that left side a little bit for the next couple weeks until they figure out what's going on that side. But let's switch to the defense maybe and talk about the defense for a little bit, because some things to really like, other things to just ugh.
I feel bad about this. I don't feel good about this game. Like my issue, and I've said it. It's like it's the same problem over and over again. I just think like this is the definition of insanity, is trying to do the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And again, like there were some really good things to like, right? Like I thought Kenny Clark had a just ridiculous game. I will talk about Jair later. But you cannot look, Bijan Robinson is a generational talent.
He's a unicorn.
You are going to give up yards to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. But letting him just pound you 5 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, that is so brutal. Like, that is so brutal. Make a stop. One stop. Just one. And, like, I find it hard. I don't know where the balance is between it being execution and coaching, right? Because Joe Barry's not the one out on the field who can't make a tackle, right? Because Bijan's out there breaking tackles. So what do you do to scheme him? But again, it's like that game with Dalvin Cook that I always go back to, where it's like you have one player to stop, one singular player, and you know who he is, and you still can't do it. Like, is that just he's that talented, or is there something wrong with our scheme? And I mean, we'll watch it the rest of the season. Let's see who can stop Bijan Robinson, kind of is the question. But I don't know. Arthur Smith didn't have to call anything else if he didn't want to. And what sucks is that like Desmond Ridder is so meh. He is just like the definition of mid for all our Gen Z listeners out there. He is so mid, and you didn't make him try to beat you through the air at all. Like they didn't need to. All they need to do is run the ball. And he made some nice throws. And I think another piece of this is that the Falcons have the M word, 2 huge mismatches in the pass game. Like Drake London and Kyle Pitts are freaks, and they're huge. And people want to, I guess I'll go into it now. People want to rag on Jair for this game. He didn't have his best game, sure. But the size mismatch between him and both of those players, and again, this should not, like, there's a way to mitigate this because you're an all-pro corner and you've always been this size and you go up against big guys and you know you should be able to, like, press differently. But, like, man, the size difference, like, what are you going to do when Drake London just bodies out Jair Alexander in the end zone? What are you going to do about that? I don't know.
So I think, the same way we talked about the Packers operating from like a primarily pass blocking offense, the challenge with their defense is they've always been designed to stop the pass and less so the run because they're used to, as a franchise, playing with a lead. And I was honestly shocked in the first half how easy Arthur Smith made it for the Packers defense. He threw so many passes. I was like, you have 2 backs who are just gashing this Packers defense. Why are you continuing to throw the ball like through the air? And, I said it on the 6-pack, like at some point to evaluate Desmond Ridder, you're going to need to let him sling it. So Arthur Smith let him sling it a little bit, but that's what got so frustrating is there were so many opportunities for turnovers. I had said on the show last week, like somebody's going to jump a route and house it because all he wants to throw are screens. And when those opportunities come to you, they weren't able to capitalize on it. And again, like everybody has a down game, whatever, they're going to beat themselves up about it enough. But something has got to give when you have a defense that's built to play with a lead or designed to defend the pass, then you have to do one of those things well, right? Like 211 yards on the ground is just inexcusable. And I understand that there was like a 36-minute differential to 24 minutes. This was a gas defense. They were on the field for 12 or, time of possession was just completely lopsided. Like that'll happen. The defensive line, I tweeted, deserved an entire game ball for that goal line stand that they had where they made the Falcons kick a field goal. There were like shining moments where the defense looked fantastic, but it just, at this point you have to wonder, like, is it operation? Is it guys getting in bad position? Because we continue to see the same things over and over again. And it's just, it doesn't make sense.
It wasn't complimentary football. And I think that's the other issue is like you talk about just a spiral in the fourth quarter. And it's like the defense, like you said, so tired. They had been trying to stop Bijan Robinson for 80 yards. They can't. Or they do, and they kick a field goal, but they still drove the length of the field. And then the offense goes 3 and out. And that's
you take
not
like
cool.
12 seconds off the clock. Like,
Literally.
what does that do?
Exactly. And so the defense like, well, this is a meme. Well, here we go again. And it's just like but my one thing I will say is this defense is filled. This team, the vet presence on this team is heavy on the defense.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's fair to have higher expectations of the guys on that side of the ball, because this is not growing pains anymore. This is year 3 with your defensive coordinator. This is year 3 together. And sure, they have some young guys out, on the line, Devontae Wyatt, Colby Wooden, LVN, et cetera. But like your base of this defense is not just vets, but like all Pro Bowl guys. They need to be able to win this game for you. Like that side of the ball needed to do better. It was just an all around like poor effort in the fourth quarter. I get you're tired, but you play football. Pick up your stamina. I think losing LVN didn't help at all. Especially, I think he plays both pass and the run, right? And that doesn't help because that's one less guy that's rotating in. You don't get to pass rush, which is this defense, like you said, this defense is built to stop the pass, and their front is all about pressure. And you can't really do that when all they're doing is running the ball. And I think they got good pressure on Desmond Ridder, but he also was able to make some plays with his legs, and he was able to get the ball out, last second for some big completions. And again, just like kudos to the other team. I'm just like really disappointed by, I think, the vets on that side of the ball. You expect better.
And I mean, the same way you talked about it already with like the Dalvin Cook game, and you knew Robinson was going to be the guy. So if your strength as a defense is your pass defense and your corners like to play press man, you make a young quarterback beat you with his arm, because you can generate pressure. I understand the size mismatch here as well. Like, you have to understand that the wide receivers are also going to get their opportunities. But for every opportunity that this young offense had with these huge wide receivers, there was a ball in someone's chest that the defense dropped. Like, there were plenty of opportunities to capitalize on young offense growing pains, the same way that Jordan Love got lucky with a couple balls that the Falcons didn't pick. So if you're not going to lean on your strength, and you're not going to mitigate, the one gigantic risk that you have in front of you, then what is what is the identity of the defense? And I think that's what we're still trying to figure out. And we've continued to try to figure that out. And week 1, we thought we knew. And again, it was week 1 against a really bad Bears offense.
The Bears.
Right.
Yeah,
like it.
Bears.
Who gets a game ball, Perri? Let's talk about something else.
Who gets a game ball? Jaden Reed?
Yep.
Jaden Reed. 2 touchdown day. First touchdown of his NFL career. I thought he did some really nice things. His speed is monstrous, and I think he's going to be let me add this. Let's just say this. We make so many caveats about rookies getting acclimated to the NFL, and I have to say, both their second-round picks, Luke and Jaden Reed, they haven't need any acclimation. They are ready to go. They are ready to play, and it's really, really, really impressive. So game ball goes to Jaden Reed.
I agree. I would also give Dontavian Wicks like a little nod here, for also scoring his first NFL touchdown. This rookie class just has the potential to be like one of the most incredible Packers draft classes in a really long time. Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden always getting pressure. Obviously, Lucas Van Ness. It feels like we don't talk about him because he's just being outshined as a first-round pick who still got his first career sack last week. But like, the fact that we're talking about other players over the first-round pick just shows you kind of the depth of talent there. And then I think still, like, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, they were like just people movers the first half of the game. And unfortunately, sometimes you gas out. But I would still say that their effort at least earned them game balls because they dominated originally.
Yeah, they did. Kenny, man. Oh my God. I had a prediction on Pack Day that this is going to be Kenny Clark's first all-pro season. I feel really good about it.
I like it. All right, stock up.
Aaron Jones, baby. Aaron Jones, your stock is, I didn't think it could be higher, but it's high. This team needs you. This team, this offense, with and without him, is night and day. I think we need to like put him in some cryogenic therapy, like freeze him. I don't know. He can't age. He can never leave.
I want to talk about this just really quickly. I know this episode's kind of running long, but I was on Pack-A-Day Live with Andy and Dusty on Wednesday, and we talked about Aaron Jones is who he is, and he's so dynamic and so explosive because he's never had to necessarily be the bell cow of the offense. Like, he's not an Ezekiel Elliott who you burn into the ground after their rookie contract because you're giving him like 40 touches a game. Like, what makes him so valuable and so explosive is that he's kind of always fresh. Like, we're always saying, like, give Aaron Jones the ball more. But every time he touches the ball, it's a big play opportunity. So, like, if he just wants to take like 20 snaps a game and play until he's 42, I think that's the move going forward for the Packers is to just keep him fresh, keep his legs fresh. And yeah.
All right, who's your stock up?
I think the defensive line still, it was the game balls, but like Rashawn Gary, I think stock up, obviously. You can tell he's getting healthier and healthier, and he's just like wreaking havoc when he's in the game. Kenny Clark, I like your prediction about an all-pro season. Devontae Wyatt continues to just look like a man among boys, which is exactly what you want from him. It sucks that he dropped 2 almost interceptions, but I think Quay Walker also probably has his stock going up. Like, It didn't seem like it could get much higher after last week when he housed a pick and took it to the end zone, but he's just playing with such instinct, and the game looks like it's coming so much faster to him, and he's already a fast player, but his read of the offense, I think the Packers got a really good one at inside linebacker, which is something that we haven't been able to say in a while.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, he would have been my one on defense. It just looks like he is a lot more comfortable out there. He just like really knows what's going on. He was everywhere in this game. Tackling machine. He's going to get another interception. For sure.
Hopefully against Derek Carr. Stock down.
This is a tough one because this just felt like an all around like loss. Like I can't, and I don't want to pick AJ Dillon again. Even though
Offensive line, stock down.
Yeah, offensive line, fine, stock down because of injuries. There we go. Let's say run blocking, stock down.
Yeah, I think that's all encompassing what the Packers are, and stock down, hands. Come on, secondary. Like, get in better position. Let's stock down hands. Let's work on that for next week. Favorite play? Because there was, again, some really fun, good ones in there that we can talk about.
Favorite play? You go first.
So mine is, I don't know, we kind of talked about it a little bit in the show, but it was the Jordan Love scramble to pick up the first down. And because he has always just seemed so poised and so calm and so cool under pressure that the offense needed a little bit of juice, and he picked it up with his legs, and he got up like, talking his talk a little bit, like posturized a little bit. And I was like, okay, like this is the kind of like, little fire that you want to see from your quarterback. And I really appreciated that because he's just been so calm, cool, and collected that I was like, all right, Jordan, like go talk your talk. You picked up that first down, and it's cool to see what he does with his legs because he's been largely a pocket passer. So yeah, nice to see that he's got some wheels.
I need Jordan Love to slide or get out of bounds. Like, we need you, dude. Just I love it. I love the energy. I love the sentiment behind it. But I need you to slide. Thank you.
Right.
I think my favorite play, it sounds weird. I said it earlier, but like, and I know that it was a PBU by AJ Terrell, but like that throw that Jordan made to the back corner of the end zone, like, oh my God. I just think these glimpses of what he can do with his arm is so exciting. And Andy Herman said this, so I'm not taking credit for it, but like, you imagine Devontae out there instead of Wicks and how Devontae had late hands. Like, that's a touchdown, because that ball was placed like just so ever perfectly. But I did really love the jet sweep, like end around touchdown Jada Reed. That's fun. I want to see more of that.
Really, really quickly, because again, we're going kind of long here. I
Who
just want your
cares?
thoughts on the decision. You know, the Packers obviously they draw the PI the first play of the game. They kind of stall out. They have the penalty that backs them up, and it takes them from a 51-yard field goal to a 56-yard field goal. And obviously, here, hindsight is 2020. We know that 3 points would have been the difference in this game. But I was upset they didn't go for it because we saw in Chicago that Anders Carlson could have booted that thing from like Manitowoc, right? Like it felt like it would have been good from 70 yards. You're playing in a dome, you're on turf. What do you think the logic was? He's a rookie kicker. He clearly has the leg to do it. Do you think it was not wanting to put the pressure on him, not wanting to back your defense up? If, you know, they know they're going up against a high-powered offense and a guy like Robinson, like I just thought that was a head scratcher. It felt like it killed all of the momentum that they had from getting that huge shot play PI and stalled out.
Okay, I have a few thoughts on this. One is, I mean, next time keep it a 51-yarder and don't have
Right.
like weird
Don't fuck
ass
it up.
clock management. So there's that. That's 2 games in a row now. Maddie, fix that. Second being, it was just really early in the game. I think that if it's later in the game, you want the points, like you want to go for it. But like that early in the game, do you really want to give potentially the Falcons really good field position? And then, you know, let's say they go down and score a touchdown off that, and all of a sudden you're 7-0 and you're playing from behind, like right off the bat. Like I kind of get it. I do hear you in that, like Carlson could potentially make that, and you're in a dome, you don't have weather, et cetera, et cetera. But again, like I think it's early and we don't know the ceiling yet for these players. And so you're gonna be in that moment in the time frame of the game, maybe a little bit more conservative, because why put your guys behind the 8 ball that early?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Any final thoughts before we wrap up the show and, of course, come back in a couple days to talk about the Saints, who are playing right now as we record this?
They are. I know. I think it is still 0-0. Yeah. I think that, again, I'll reiterate what I said at the top of the show. Like, this was a really winnable game, and this team was leading for 3 quarters, and this is just going to be part of this season. I think you want to have your guys step up in these like key moments to keep the lead. But I mean, really, like they led this game until that final game-winning field goal. And so the glimpses show that this team is trending in the right direction. And it's just like football is a game of inches. Football is a game of bounce one way, they win, bounce the other way, the other team wins. And that's just felt like what the outcome of this game was. So it's frustrating. They should be 2-0, but I feel good about where this team is going. I feel good about them winning more games, and I think there are going to be more one-score games. They do come out on top of as the season goes on. So 1-1 from a start on the road. They're going home. They're going to want to be 2-1. They're going to want to win their big their home opener because we'll be in attendance, so they better win. So I still feel like they're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I think what I kind of like, what my takeaway was from this game is that we had said going into the season, this is a Packers team that is a 10-7 team on paper, but has the potential to be 7-10 with growing pains. And whatever the outcome is, you know, like we said, like playoffs are a pipe dream. They're possible because you're in a weakened NFC North, but most of this year, all the Packers care about is finding out if Jordan Love is good. And through 2 games, they're getting a pretty good glimpse at who he is and if he's going to be good. And they're getting a pretty good look at Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and Luke Musgrave. And there's a lot to really be excited about for young guys that are going to be your core nucleus for a long time. Like your vet in the wide receiver room is in year 2 of his contract. You don't have to make big financial decisions for these guys for like 3 or 4 years. Like let them ball as a collective unit. And I think this team is going to win more games than they lose this season. And I don't think it's just like optimistically saying that. I think this is a good football team, but we always said that the metric, the evaluation of this season was to see who you have and who you want to keep.
Yes.
And you're reaching for next year.
Yeah.
And if you happen to make the playoffs and have like a really good season this year, that's the cherry on top. And I think being 2-0 would probably obviously be the cherry right now, but being 1-1 with a really good glimpse at who this football team is and knowing that there's like a lot of really cool things on the horizon, you take it. It's a young team. There's growing pains, but there's a lot more to be optimistic about than pessimistic about, I think.
I totally agree with you. Well said.
Thank you.
We'll be back later this week with our Saints preview. Follow us on Twitter at Pax What She Said Podcast, PWSS Podcast. We are now on YouTube. If that's how you're watching this, welcome. Pax What She Said on YouTube. Subscribe. You can get the video version. So all of our weird facial expressions, the way I overly talk with my hands, all very exciting and fun. Go and download us there, if not audio on all of your streaming platforms. This has been fun, therapeutic, but now we look ahead to week 3. Maggie, I get to see you in person this weekend. I'm so excited to be in the great state of Wisconsin. I need a Hinterland cherry wheat ASAP. Follow Maggie on Twitter at Maggie J. Loney. Follow me on Twitter at Perri_Goldstein. Like I said, follow the podcast, Pax What She Said. Thank you all for listening to this a little bit long show, but I hope you feel better about the loss afterwards. And as always, win, lose, or tie, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.